Hi, it's time to review an article, and this one is about literature circles and how they can incorporate nonfiction text and still accomplish the cool stuff that most people think can only be done with fiction. So let's take a look at it. The title of the article is Really? Not Possible? I Can't Believe It. Exploring Informational Text in Literature Circles. This was conducted by Diane Barone and Rebecca Barone. So basically, Rebecca is a fifth grade teacher, and Diane is a university researcher working specifically with reading. And they wondered how literature circles might be able to incorporate informational text. So in order to understand that, you have to know a little bit about literature circles. They also wondered about multimodal reading and opportunities for students' response, and not just to the teacher, but to each other. Students responded to deepen the comprehension, and they were able to verbalize an understanding for themselves and for the other group members. And how did they learn this? Well, they conducted this study on 61 fifth graders. Most all of this was qualitative research through observation and interaction with the students. They believed that the practical knowledge about how students interpret informational text would help other teachers and allow the teachers for better planning and for student exploration. Kind of a give and take there. So first we have to understand what literature circles are. They are small, heterogeneous groups in which students all read the same story, and each of the students are tasked with contributing information, but uniquely about the story. So it's through assigned responsibility. They each have a job. The literature circles focus on informational text. So basically they are able to support close reading through the reading of the text and the student dialogue that is centered around all of the text. The first thing they were tasked with was text selection. How do you choose nonfiction and get an immediate response that's positive from the students? They wanted informational text, and they wanted it to be appealing. So they guessed, basically. I think they did more than guessed. I think they used some intuition about already having some knowledge about the fifth graders, being that one of them was already a fifth grade teacher. But they chose mysteries, curious phenomena, and other topics that were related to modern science. And I think that's the key thing there, is they really tied it in close to science. But how do you do that with vampires, creepy castles, and dungeons? So they had criteria for choosing the books. They had to be recent publications. They had to be 100 pages and include text and some visual elements. But they could not be part of a series where they had to read more than one book. The books also could not have identical formats. It's also a big challenge. The books selected were appropriate for most of the fifth graders to read independently, and the students each formed their own groups, and the teachers honored their selection, first and second choices, and they were allowed to read together with a partner, and the books were formatted for chat between small groups of people, and the content was easy to transfer, especially for the students, since they were doing all the work. Here's how they managed this, though. With the literature circle, they assigned groups, and each group had a member with this particular job. One member had the director's job, one was the inventor, one was the mapper, one was a word wizard, one was the nonfiction fact finder, and the last person was the visual viewer. So what do those people do? The director had to develop questions that encouraged discussion amongst the other members and keep them on task. and closely relating it to the text. They also had to help analyze. They had to be able to analyze the text in order to formulate these questions and keep the groups participating with each other, and then they had to be good listeners. The inventor was someone who created nonfiction text that the author did not include, so they had to be able to find additional descriptive language. And how would they do that? So they were able to create pictures and captions and maps and diagrams and other types of graphic organizers and stuff. No, wait, graphic organizers was the job of the mapper. Sorry. They were able to create the graphic organizers such as a T-chart, a Venn diagram, timelines, or sequence charts, so that they could keep all the information the group was discussing organized. The word wizards, they looked up new and interesting words, and they were tasked with defining them, and that meant going beyond just writing down a definition that they could find, on google.com or in a dictionary. They had to be able to relate the terms to the rest of the group. So it had to be fifth grade language. The nonfiction fact finder, this person listed 3 facts discovered during the reading, and then they shared the facts with the rest and how it affected the topic. They would later decide to write 2 facts and a lie to see if the students could figure out which one was the lie. And lastly, the visual viewer. This person drew an image connected. They were able to illustrate something out of the text that wasn't already provided and then explain it and connect it to the reading. So what the researchers learned was that their first discovery was how much students enjoyed reading informational text, especially when it was put into this type of format, this genre especially. And secondly, they learned that the students were able to respond from their text roles very specifically and fluently. The teachers were just mesmerized by the response. The teacher takeaway was that students can collaboratively talk about their discoveries. Their roles were supported with engagement, and the roles acknowledged the importance of multimodal understandings. Students were excited to explore informational text and do it collaboratively. And finally, they were able to develop sophisticated academic vocabulary through their readings. So by exploring informational text within literature circles, all of the students acquired some type of new fact, vocabulary. They were able to participate in close reading of text, and they were able to learn and support each other through their responses to the text, as well as to their discussions and the opinions of each other. So they were very supportive. It was a very positive experience for everyone. So what do? We take away from this, become familiar with different types of nonfiction or informational text so that you can create a text set around a topic that'll be interesting to your students. You have to know them to know what they like. Decide on potential jobs, assign them, get them to the point where they understand exactly what their responsibility is. And then think of internet or digital connections to support that, because they're going to want to do some research. And then finally, practice creating questions that students from all literature circles might explore together as a class. Great article, and something I definitely look forward to implementing in my future classroom.